Paltrocast. Jordan and Jordan, it's a pleasure to be speaking with both of you. And I'll first throw it to JYL. Two-parter. How are you? And what do I call you in the case when there's two Jordans in the room? Two talented Jordans, and people want to go, I want to speak to JYL. What do you do? What's the naming protocol?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm doing well. Thank you. Hope the same for you. Happy that my roof did not blow off the house last night. It was a little nerve-wracking there for a little bit.
Totally. Same here in Long Beach, not too far from where you grew up in the Five Towns, right?
That's right. Yep. And now I'm in the North Shore, so still close by. But yeah, no, I mean with Jordan B and myself, typically it's just been Jordan is me, and people refer to Jordan B as JB. It's just been like a natural kind of organic thing. So that's how we differentiate.
Got it. So JB, is your roof on tight? You're fine?
So far, so good. Yeah. I'm in Westchester, and so I was a little nervous about flooding, but no problems last night, so all good.
North Shore, Long Island, Westchester, the two places Manhattanites resent most, we would say, outside of New Jersey. And it's a pleasure to be speaking with both of you. You know, as a writer, interviewer who's taping junkets 5-6 days a week, things that both of you are working on are pitched. It seems like one a week. I get one of your things here. When Tribeca comes around, it's like 7 things in that. Bucky F and Dent, obviously, that was a big deal. That was one of the titles where I was going, man, please let me get on that junket. But JYL, I'll throw this to you. What is out in theaters and are on demand right now that people should be paying attention to that you and JB worked on?
Yeah, sure. So I would say our most recent release is The Kill Room, starring Uma Thurman, Sam Jackson, Joe Manganiello. And that one might still be in theaters. It was out in maybe 500 plus when it initially released. And it's definitely on demand as well. Cool art, heist, thriller movie. We also have, I would say, probably a good 10 plus other movies that are out there now, everywhere from Hulu to Showtime. Actually, the first movie Jordan and I did together was called After Everything with Jeremy Allen White, who's hot as hell now, of course, because of The Bear. And, you know, for me, The Iron Claw, which I love that film. Really wild, cool movie. Granted, I know the story, so it makes even more sense. But anyway, that's out there on Hulu. We have Alone Together that we did with Katie Holmes on Hulu. Same as Rare Objects with Katie. Showtime, what do we have? As They Made Us with Dustin Hoffman, Diana Agron. We have Becky 1, Becky 2 on Showtime. So we have a lot of films floating out there.
Again, these junkets, I think I did Becky 1 and Becky 2. You don't get all the JB and JYLs, but the ones you do get as the writer interviewer, you're psyched to get. So JB, how did you and JYL first meet?
Yeah, so I was a lawyer actually for about 10 years. I practiced entertainment law coming out of law school, and I was introduced to Jordan Levine probably in 2010 when I was working in Manhattan. And so he and his old partner, Ash Christian, who sadly passed away a few years ago, but I started representing them, and Jordan and I just kind of hit it off, and we're working together for many years. And it was kind of a like a little side project where, you know, we were talking one day and I said, hey, I'd be interested in producing, would you want to do that together? I had a lot of contacts and, investors and other producers, and obviously Jordan was actively producing. And so we did this Jeremy Allen White project, and I loved it. I loved the process. It was crazy and stressful and fun and exciting and all of those things. And so I came back. We shot that in New York. I was living in California at the time. Shot that, came back. We had an opportunity to do another one, and decided to leave my law practice and just pursue this full time. And so we started Yale Entertainment in 2017, and we've been going strong ever since then.
So JYL, how does Yale University feel about Yale Entertainment? Any idea?
Yeah, we're in a legal battle with them right now, but we're winning. No,
we're really not.
No. My middle name is Yale. My father went there, still very actively involved in the culture and the university. So really, it was just when I was starting out by myself, I needed a company name, which became Yale Productions. And then over time, it started to gain some credibility through movies like King Cobra with James Franco, Christian Slater, Jack Goes Home, with Rory Culkin. And the time that Jordan B and I hooked up, we said, you know what, let's just use the name because it's already out there, has some credibility. And then we've taken that to Yale Entertainment, which really embodies Yale Productions as our #1 revenue source, our #1 production company. We have Great Escape, which is our foreign sales arm as well. We have a company called Lafayette Pictures with Katie Holmes, which really services movies and shows that she would like to produce and direct besides act in. So yeah, I mean, we haven't had any conversations with Yale University. Granted, we have shot in the New Haven area before.
That's, that's close enough. At least it's an on-brand kind of thing. Now, Jordan Beckerman here, the law background is obviously very unique. How long was it into that law career where you realized that, okay, entertainment law is it for me? For example, was that your specialty in law school?
Yeah, so my third year of law school, so my last year of law school, I started working for a firm that did a lot of theater and a little bit of film. And I had kind of bounced around doing, litigation and different types of law. And when I saw that I could do this for a career and work in theater and movies, and for me, it was just the light bulb went on, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. I've always loved film more than anything. Like I grew up, going to the theater, and it was just a thing that my father and I did together. And so once I found out that I never went to law school expecting to do this, but once I realized that I could make a career of doing that, it was kind of, that was it. And so that's really all I ever did. I started in law school. I was hired by that firm coming out of law school. I really focused more on the film side. The theater stuff was great, but my passion was always film. And so I just kind of, every client that came in the door that was doing independent film, I just kind of, latched onto and started working with. And so, yeah, for me, it was always kind of the focus. And, but, every time you work on a project, you're sort of involved, but it's not really your project. And so for me, I wanted to kind of, do something where I felt like I had more ownership, and I had more participation in the actual films that were happening. And so that's where kind of the producing stuff, felt right. And yeah, no, it's been great. And the legal background helps at times. We negotiate, writer deals and actor deals and all of that kind of stuff. And so having a little bit of a background in that, really does help, on a day-to-day basis.
Now, a compliment, a question, whatever the term for a combined compliment question is, to throw at Jordan Levine here. You guys are more in the middle of making filmmaking, not only than anybody realizes, but arguably more than the agents are, more than the talent is, because you have to deal with the money people and the producers, which you are, but you have to deal with the other producers. You have to deal with the talent, the wrangling, and all that. So, am I wrong to assume that when you have multiple films going on, that there's no sleep happening?
Yeah, there's typically no sleep in general. I mean, on top of movies, I also have 2 kids, and JB has a son as well. But no, I mean, the thing is that when we have multiple movies shooting, a lot of the time they're shooting in different time zones.
Yes.
So you'll have one starting up and one finishing. We've had many overnight shoots where you shoot from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., which are basically a zombie the next day. It's a really wild lifestyle in regards to being on set, or even for us. I mean, we're not on set now as much as we used to be because we do have so many productions going on. We can't dedicate all of our time to one in particular. But no, look, we're available 24/7 to our producers and actors and crew members, kind of on call like a doctor. So it gets wild, but we do love it. I mean, for us, we much rather have 2 or 3 films in production or various stages of development, whether it is pre-production, post-production, a movie premiering, opposed to just kind of sitting around and waiting for something to happen.
Now, as we're starting to wind down here, I have the same sort of question for both of you, and I'll throw it to JB at first. I find that whatever field that you're in love with, that's sort of a hobby that you're then able to turn into a career, you are first like a kid in a candy store where you go, wait, free movies? Okay. And I get to go on set. I'm gonna eat all the craft services. I'm gonna go to every premiere, every networking event. Then you eventually burn out and then you get selective and you fall out of love of it with it, and then you come back to loving it again. How do you stay in love with the film business knowing how the sausage is made?
Yeah, it's interesting question. I mean, I think that, for me, this glimpse behind the curtain hasn't really affected my love of, great films, great TV shows. I keep discovering, new stuff. And I think for us, it's just about, are we making content that we would want to watch and stuff that we're excited about. And so, we get submitted a project or several a day, just because we are, not to toot our horn, but relatively prolific.
Yeah.
A lot of, young filmmakers and people trying to get their projects made, they submit to us. And so we have had to be more selective about the projects that we do. There's also, been a lot of change in the marketplace. And so, we have to kind of be adaptive when it comes to what projects we're doing that makes sense, for us. But we also want to make stuff that we're excited about, working with cool people that directors that we actually, really like, not just their creative, mind, but also just on a personal level. And so that helps a lot if we're working with people that, we're friends with and that we like working with. I mean, I think that, who you surround yourself with in this business is everything. I think that it really does matter, who you're working with on a day-to-day basis. And I think we've been, really good, especially recently, about, focusing on projects with, the right kind of people. And that keeps things fresh and exciting. And again, every time you do a new film, it's a whole new, experience and a whole new world. And if you can surround yourself with good people, then it does keep it fun and exciting.
Well said. I assume that Mr. Levine, you're going to have the same kind of response right there.
Yeah, I mean, look, great question, great response. I think that to add to that, I would say that, what we do sometimes becomes very transactional,
Mhm.
which is totally fine. I think that's the case in a lot of businesses. And, we have to be transactional as well. We have to make these numbers and projects make sense in order to keep going and producing films that we want to produce. And right now it's the award season, right? So part of
Right.
the Producers Guild, which I'm a member of, we get to watch all of the current films that are being nominated in different categories. And I was able to watch, I mentioned it before, Iron Claw in the last couple of weeks. And for me, it's not only a topic that I am, super excited to explore further through an actual, narrative film with actors like Lily James and Zac Efron and
And
Jeremy Allen
Max
White.
Friedman
Say it again.
and Max Friedman.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he was in it not as much as he should have been, but that's beside
Correct.
the point.
Yeah.
And fellow Long Islander as well.
Yeah.
But look, that gives me, in my opinion, more motivation because I'm like, like it's not just like all transactional what we do. It inspires me and us to be like, let's go out there and crush these films, but also, yes, make sure to incorporate films that we are wildly passionate about as well. It just makes it even that much sweeter to produce a film where, again, it's a topic that you love from growing up and still are attached to in some way, shape, or form. So I think that around this time it gets extra exciting to see movies like The Iron Claw, Saltburn, Oppenheimer, just the best of the best to really come out.
Well, my last question, I don't know if this is going to get a no comment or a you have to wait until the embargo lifts or whatever, but Iron Claw's come up a few times. And one of the trends that I see in films as an outsider is whenever one thing from a fan oriented hobby has a successful film, a lot of people are making that. So in the case of the Iron Claw, there's that. There's strong rumors at Netflix that there's a Hulk Hogan biopic. There was basically the Page biopic a couple of years ago, the WWE helped helm. The last question is there anything wrestling related off the slate of your company or that you're looking into at this point?
Yeah, interesting question, because I know that, yeah, there's not much that we're allowed to say, but we are working on something. We are. And it was not as a result of the Iron Claw. The Iron Claw was more like, oh, great. It's even more validation that the business in general is booming. I've been a fan, and then Jordan and myself, we know a bunch of the wrestlers for many years. One of my best friends was Shad Gaspard, who unfortunately passed away.
Yes.
He was a groomsman at my wedding. I mean, that's how close we were.
I didn't know that. That's incredible. And it's wonderful how many people came around from the industry, no matter the company lines, to talk about what a great guy Shad
Oh
was.
yeah, and Diamond Dallas Page is how I know Shad, and
Oh,
yeah. So
I
he's
didn't
a
know you were also a DDP friend. There you go.
and Jordan and I put him in our movie High Heat with Olga Kurylenko and Don
Oh,
Johnson, and
I didn't know that was, and I'm interrupting you again. I didn't know High Heat was one of your films. I was on the junket for that. There you
oh,
go.
that's so funny. Yeah, so I think a long way to say that yes, we do have something in development now. I will say that if you are a fan of wrestling, I'm sure you're going to be excited.
Wow. And High Heat was that was a funny action film with a great cast. It was great to see to see Don Johnson in a smart ass role like that. So kudos to you guys on that one.
Oh, thank
So
you.
the last thing before I let you go, we addressed at the beginning, but what's the next thing from yours that we should be excited about?
Sure. I mean, we have around 7 movies right now in post-production. That, I mean, Bucky F. and Dent, you mentioned it before. We had Parachute that Brittany Snow directed at South by Southwest with Thomas Mann, Courtney Eaton, Dave Bautista.
Wow.
Um,
Comes
yeah,
back to wrestling yet again.
yep. That movie should be. And by the way, that was not as a result of us. Dave Bautista and Brittany Snow did a movie called Bushwick, and they became super close on that. So that movie will come out probably in April. We haven't announced it yet, but that's what we're hearing. But what else, Jordan? We did a movie called Barron's Cove with Mandalay, who did Air, that came out, of course, crushing it this year.
Yeah. So still finalizing some release dates, but yeah, I think Parachute, Bucky effing Den. I mean, I think those are kind of the next ones coming out. And yeah, I think Parachute, April. Yeah, I'm not sure how much news we're allowed to kind of announce, but that that's probably the next release.
And then what's the best way to keep up on you guys in closing? Is it following on Instagram or just wait for all the Hollywood Reporter and Variety embargoes to lift?
Kind of both. I mean, look, we do announce whenever we have a release coming out or movies in development, in production. Our social media is up there as well. So Instagram, Facebook, etc. But we're always putting out news, I would say once a month, if not more, on what we have going on. I mean, typically we're producing around 10 movies a year. At this point, I think we're going to produce a bit less and produce more higher budget movies. So movies such as The Kill Room, or our film Bandit with Josh Duhamel and Mel Gibson, or Stowaway that we executive produced with Toni Collette and Anna Kendrick. So movies like that are more in like the $10 to $20 million range is what we're focusing on, I would say, for 2024.